there, fans of Survivor Super Fun Time Show. This is Kevin from the Super Fun Time Show, and today we have an awesome Survivor 46 Episode 11 recap video. This is a big one. Obviously, one of the most beloved characters for a certain subsection of the internet. Absolutely lost their favorite. Bummer for them, but we'll say a moment of silence for them. All right, back to the rest of the recap. We have some other cool stuff that happens. The establishment of a new queen in camp after all this. My personal favorite, Kenzie, was bamboozled after the last vote. And Charlie looks like he is hiding in plain sight, and he is the middle person for everyone right now. And then, of course, obviously, there's always Q shenanigans. But before we get into that, remember, please hit the subscribe button. It helps out the channel incredibly in order to have your support. So I appreciate it very much if you take a hot second and click on that. I'll keep bringing the Survivor content. You keep watching it. Perfect symbiotic relationship. Anyway, episode starts off, they come back from Tribal Council where Kenzie's sort of number one was just voted out by everyone else. The only people that didn't know were herself and Venus. And of course, Kenzie starts right away, as a good player does, and says, listen, I would have voted with y'all if you had told me, because it was a move that Kenzie wanted to do. Kenzie was actually the first one to bring it up on the TV show, and Maria ended up taking credit for it, which is good or bad, depending on your perspective. If you're in the final three, it's bad that Maria took that. If you're sitting there at the final seven, as we're going to talk about, maybe it was good that Maria is very happily popping her chest out about it and saying, hey, I got Tiffany out, So maybe Kenzie is not in a bad spot. And there's a moment where Kenzie's sitting alone on the boat and Venus comes up and says, you know what? It's okay we're left out. That means they're going to be targets and da-da-da-da. And this is brilliant from Venus in that moment because she's right. Good for her for being really positive and not taking it for the massive blow to their game that it really was in the moment. But she really did kind of put it in a really positive way, and it's true. And maybe that helped turn Kenzie around a little bit. Kenzie kind of took a loss here in a way that was disappointing to me as someone who's a big fan. But as someone who's a huge sports fan, I know that if you have the number one team in the league in the regular season, and they are heading toward the playoffs, let's say it's perfect. Let's say it's the Philadelphia Eagles. They're 16-0. And they're one game away from getting into the playoffs, and it's already locked up. They're going to get there. Everyone's thinking Super Bowl now. If they take a loss that isn't great right before the playoffs, and it's a great reminder that you are just not given these things because you're more talented or you're smarter or whatever. Instead, it's like, no, you have to be sharp every single day. And so maybe this gut punch is good for people like Kenzie, who I think has winner potential still, and maybe needed that reminder. Mind you, while this was happening, Maria wasn't done. Maria was sitting around the fire right after Tribal and said, hey, maybe this should be the final five. And the final five would be the Siga 3, so Ben, Charlie, and Maria, and Q and Liz. Good five for Maria, but maybe not for everyone else. So I understand why she put it in there, but boy, she did not stop. And that probably only added to some of the troubles that she had later on in the episode. Next morning, Maria, Kenzie, Q, they're all talking, trying to, catch up from what happened the night before. And they all know that the idol hunt is on. Tiffany's idol is going to be placed back into the game. Kenzie knows it. Kenzie wants to find it. Maria wants to find it. Q wants to find it. Maria, in a true, Godfather type move, Kingpin move, does a quiet to Q, you go follow her. When she goes to look for it, you go follow. And I think that's smart. Don't get me wrong. Boston Rob did that. And guess what? Boston Rob is lauded as one of the best ever play. So I can't blame her there. But it's interesting. When you read it from a fan's perspective, you're looking at Maria. She is slipping into a very comfortable position. She knows what she did, and she knows that she's considered a top dog in this moment, even though she wants to be, but she obviously doesn't want to be. But I think she's liking the power a little too much in this moment, to where she's telling Q to go follow Kenzie. And there's a few other things, like trying to form a Final Five alliance right then and there at that little fireplace. And one that I thought was interesting was, later on in the episode, Charlie and Maria sit down, and Charlie goes, first of all, congratulations, congratulating her on organizing the blind side. And Maria is tickled pink that she did it, and that Charlie is acknowledging it. And the whole time I'm looking at this, and I'm like, Charlie is gassing this woman up. It's amazing. And again, Maria should be stoked. A huge blindside just happened of a pretty dangerous player. However, there's a whole other game that's going on right now that Maria's her brain is not in that space of it. And it's a difficult game, so I can't blame her on that. But She is getting gassed up a little bit, and she's being set up by Charlie, which is really, really fascinating. Charlie is undetected, and it's amazing. But I digress from that. We'll talk more about Charlie and Maria a little bit later on. However, the idol hunt does happen. Everyone's looking. Venus, of all people, is the one who found it. Now, I say of all people because she's the one the castaways seem to think had the least chance to actually get it, other than maybe Liz, who was lying down. But as a viewer, it actually kind of makes sense because Venus is really aggressive. She likes to just do things. And I think idol hunting is so random at times, these days at least, that it makes sense that someone like Venus, who has a lot of energy, just goes for it, just grabs stuff, and does it, actually gets it. Plus, she knew where Tiffany found her idol, apparently, and she knew where Randon ended up finding his Beware advantage. So she did have the advantage of knowing where multiple idols were found. That is true. She gets it, she does a smart thing, and she doesn't stop searching out of nowhere. That would have caused suspicion. And instead, she puts up this charade with Kenzie, which is really funny, where Kenzie's like, you gotta like look around, honey bun, otherwise you're never gonna find it. Because Venus is just poking stuff with sticks, just like, They're like, yeah, or just like pulling on palm fronds, and it looks ridiculous. But knowing as a viewer that Venus already had the idol was really funny. Now, before we get to the immunity challenge, I will say Charlie and Maria have already talked a little bit at this point, and Charlie is trying to figure out exactly how important Q is to Maria. Maria doesn't want to keep Q around for another vote. That set off alarm bells for Charlie, rightly so, that Maria and Q are closer than Charlie would like. So from there, Charlie's like, I'm going to start letting everyone else know I wouldn't mind if Maria went home, if that was the case, right? Because she was with me, and now she's openly telling me she's inviting in another ally. She's trying to make it our ally, but really, it's your ally. You always want to be the person with the extra add-on in your pocket. Because at any point, it's like the Sith. There must be two. The rule of two. What does that mean for me? A lot of times in Survivor, I don't think players think about that enough, but Charlie is. And Charlie is doing a bang-up job. So he talks to the tribe, and most of them want Maria gone. At least a lot of the girls, like Kenzie and Venus, they want that to happen, including Liz as well, who's not interested in the 5-person alliance. We'll get to immunity and reward. They have to do this challenge, you know, carry a ball through an obstacle course, and then eventually slide it on a slithery snake. And after many failed attempts by a lot of people, including Venus, who almost won like 3 times, Maria ended up winning immunity, making her not an option to be voted out this time by Charlie and bamboozled. However, as the part 2 of what went on, it was the reward portion. Maria got to choose people to go with her to have a pizza party. A big old pizza party. And the rest of them can go home and have a big old pity party. First person Maria chose, she chose Ben, because she said, I'm not even thinking about people to work with or any kind of major strategy or who I like. Instead, I think it's about bodies who are breaking down and need nourishment. She chooses Ben, who satisfies, honestly, all the things that she's looking for. She's looking for people that she likes to work with and their bodies breaking down. Good choice. Well, the problem is she only gets to choose one other, and she didn't know this at the time. She gets to choose one other, and it's a very difficult decision for her. Thankfully, Charlie stepped up and said, you know what, Maria, I'm out of this. And then Kenzie followed suit and said, fine, same, you don't have to choose me. And Maria, in a very interesting turn, asked the players to make their case as to why they should go to the reward. And no one seems super into making a compelling case, because I will say it is a choice to turn around when it's your choice to tell those 3 to make the choice. You know, it's basically what happened. And again, still with the theme of, you know, I want to choose whose body is breaking down. She ends up kicking Venus out of the discussion at all and said, Liz and Q, you do rock, paper, scissors. And Q wins rock, paper, scissors, of course. So Maria goes to reward with Q and Ben, and they enjoy tons of pizza, where Q even admits, he's like, yeah, I shouldn't have been on that reward. I ate 23 slices of pizza. Only like 2 days prior, I ate a bunch of Applebee's. Like, there's no reason why I should have been picked, but it does secure me to be around, so I'm good with it. And that's the correct perspective. I mean, you should be pretty stoked, although it did put Q in the firing line. So the pizza losers go back, they're all really sad, and Charlie gasses up that group to make them really upset. And it's perfect. He gasses them up to be upset at Maria, and that's exactly what he wants. She can't go right now, but maybe Q can go right now, because Q is the one that everyone realizes is really close to Maria. because of Maria's decision to take him along. And what's interesting is, like, she didn't handpick Q, but she handpicked Q to go against Liz to win food and dismissed Venus. She could have dismissed Q and instead left him in. So it let everyone know that he was very much an option for Maria. And now there's a lot of scrambling and a lot of talk and everything, but essentially it gets to this point. All the girls really want to vote Q, and everyone else wants to get rid of Venus. So it's really a battle of who's going to go home. And Charlie is the swing vote, which again is a brilliant spot for him. However, he needs to figure out which way he's going to go. And the biggest conversation that appears to have affected was Venus talked to Charlie, and they were trying to discuss about, getting rid of Q and maybe working together in the future. And Venus lets it slip that she has, well, not even she, that she or someone has an advantage that could help out Charlie and Venus in the future. But she is unwilling to tell Charlie. Charlie's practically begging her, tell me what you have. And at some point, Venus says trust works both ways. Meaning, okay, Charlie, you do what I'm asking you to, and then I'll let you know. And it's interesting because that is true. Trust does work both ways. But the thing is, you're asking him to trust you one way for right now. Like, if you won't even tell him what the advantage is, how can he trust you at all? And Venus is proven to be very untrustworthy. And I've seen fans say, like, well, she's done everything that she said she was going to do, or she's been right on a bunch of votes, or she's been included in a bunch of votes. That's true, I guess. But you also hear castaways say, as soon as you tell her anything, she runs around and starts causing chaos with that information. So people don't trust saying a name in front of Venus. And this is one of those moments where Charlie, with that information knowing it, Venus won't tell him something that could help them, that could swing his decision. And I think she sunk her own game. They go to tribal council. Venus is voted out of the game. And she's voted out with multiple votes. I mean, Kenzie also voted for Venus as well. So it really wasn't as close as Venus thought maybe it would be. However, I did see in her exit interview from Rob Has Podcast, she knew it was going to be really close. She knew it was going to be pretty, not 50-50, but pretty close. And I'm surprised with an idol, she didn't use her idol. It's amazing. It's amazing that people aren't using their idols. And some people I blame more than others. Jem, I don't really blame for not using her. She just got blindsided properly. Tiff, pretty much the same thing. Hunter, he blew it. He should have used his idol. And Venus, I think she should have used hers too. Like, they knew they were in enough danger and the numbers are limited enough that she should have dropped that thing like it was hot. I will say during tribal council, though, before the vote, what was so interesting was there was a lot of fighting back and forth, mainly between Venus and Maria, and then Venus and Q. And that was really fun to watch as a viewer. I think Maria, she botched it with the decision making that happens, but it's all snowballed together, right? Like, Maria botched it with the decision making, but that wouldn't matter as much if Maria hadn't just gotten rid of Tiffany and become like the Queenpin of the group. And she hadn't just won immunity to make her seem like she's even more powerful. So it's really just a snowball of things. Like, if it were Kenzie that had did it, people wouldn't have freaked out about it. But it was the fact that Maria is in this unique spot where she's taking ownership of controlling the game, essentially. People aren't going to like that kind of stuff. So it's unfortunate, but that's the situation. Q sticks up for a little bit, and then Charlie does this perfect middling job that he does. I don't know how he stays so centered. I really don't know how he does it in this game so late. But he finds a way to get everyone to chill out a little bit, and then he votes Venus out. All respect in the world to Charlie. He's killing it. It's been a long time coming for Venus, probably. I think Venus is the perfect kind of character or player that you look at and you remember that there are certain phases to the game and certain players have certain strengths at different times. Venus, terrible player to have in the first phase of the game. If Nami had lost even a single challenge, Venus would have been gone pre-merge, no question. But once the merge hit, Venus is like a dream to have around because there's a bunch of other threats people are looking at. Like, maybe the first vote, Venus may be the one to go because people have to find a consensus on that first vote, much like the first vote for your original tribe. But if she gets past the first vote, everyone's going to go, why would I vote out Venus? Tiffany said it in episode 7 or 8, something like that. She said, for real though, why are we aiming at Venus? Like, she's not a threat to me. But then she becomes a threat because she can skate toward the end of the game. And that's essentially what happened here. And it's a shame when she got her real first bit of major agency in the game, she ended up blowing it by not playing her idol. So even though on a gameplay standpoint, I did not like Venus's game, I think socially, she's still, she's got a long way to go on knowing how to deal with people in these situations. However, as a TV character, wonderful. She made me laugh so many times. When she was talking to Kenzie on the boat, I was like, wow, Venus is being really positive and uplifting and awesome. There's also been a lot of controversy about her on the internet. People who love Venus to the point where they will attack other castaways on social media, which, by the way, I think is bullshit. So anyone who's doing that, you suck. Ultimately, Venus is fine. The other castaways are fine. Everyone's fine. Don't do your BS and start attacking people just because you really like one person versus another. Now, with all that nonsense put aside, that means there's going to be a wonderful end to this, I'm sure. The Sega 3, Ben, Charlie, Maria, Yanu, you got Kenzie and Q. Who would have seen it? Kenzie and Q. And then finally you have Liz, the last remaining player from Navi. It's going to be interesting to see how it breaks down in the end because Maria's made herself the biggest threat, but Ben doesn't seem to want to get rid of her. However, Charlie telling him we should get rid of Maria, that may do it. And obviously Kenzie's going to be down. Q, who knows? I think Q will turn on anyone at any time, which makes him a really good player. But I don't know. And Liz is definitely down for it as well. So it could be Q's time finally. But I'll tell you right now, I am turning the corner on the idea that Q can win this game. I didn't think so even one episode ago, let alone 2 or 3. Now I'm convinced Q has a shot at winning this game. He can talk about how he basically co-ran Yanu in the beginning, how he set up the +1 alliance that set the tone for the merge, and then slowly picked off his allies one way or another, how he thought maybe he would quit the game and maybe that was a lie, maybe it was true, but he used his motivation to push forward, and he was willing to do whatever he could and bamboozle people and be the shield in a really unorthodox way to distract people. You know, Dr. Will Kirby of Big Brother 7, I remember there was one time that he did a confessional and I thought it was brilliant. He said, "My target has become so big that it's practically invisible. No one is coming after me, even though I'm obviously the #1 person that should be voted out." And I'm wondering if Q's target is so big that no one can see it anymore. And they're crazy. And they're letting Q get to the end of the game. Because if he sits there at Final Tribal, do I think he's going to be the best at handling the jury? No. But he speaks very clearly. He speaks with his chest. And I think people respect that if you have something to back it up. And he does. He does. But on the other side of it is, you also have to be likable. And I think there's at least half the jury that doesn't really like Q very much. So he's probably my 4th ranked person to win the game out of 6, which is not very high. But I used to think he was like 5 or 6. Now, 4, he's in territory where I could see the argument depending on who he's sitting next to. #1 for me is Charlie. #2 for me is Kenzie. #3 is Maria. Maria's probably made more bankable moves than Charlie or Kenzie, but the difference is I don't think Maria's going to get to the finals. So that's why I put her at 3 over Kenzie, because I think Kenzie will probably get to the finals, and I don't think Maria will. Oh, and speaking of Charlie, the wonderful, wonderful game navigating Charlie, we have an excellent episode of Hiding in Plain Sight brought to you by the winner of Survivor 43, Mike Gabler. He's going to let us know who his Hiding in Plain Sight winner of the week is. Who could it be?
Hiding in Plain Sight!
Hey there, Super Fun Time Nation. It's Gabler, the Alan Gabler here, giving you my pick of the week for Hiding in Plain Sight. And believe it or not, I was planning on Venus this week because she was doing so well. She found the idol, kept it quiet, kinda, and then she just did what she does and flew too close to the sun. Her wings melted. She is gonzo. So I've got to pick someone else this week, and it's going to be a 2-time winner. It's going to be Charlie, because once again, Charlie finds himself right in the middle. He's got all the information flowing through him. He seems to have his finger on the pulse of Nui Nui Beach. He's got a cool new alliance brewing with the non-pizza people, and he's stirring up trouble where it's keeping the focus off of him, and he's moving deeper every day, every week on that game. So I think he's got himself a great pathway to get to Final Tribal right now. And I don't know what's going to happen. Maria's put a big target on herself now. Charlie's fanning those flames. Kenzie's a wild card. The non-pizza people, you never know. Should be pretty fun. So that's what it is. It's Charlie. And since it is Charlie, I have to do a couple grip strength exercises right here. So take care, y'all. Gabler out. And happy Mother's Day to everybody, too. Bye-bye.
Hiding in Plain Sight!
Exactly, Charlie. Charlie did it again. This guy, whether he wins immunity or not, some reason no one is looking at Charlie. But Good Luck Chuck has got to run out at some point, right? Or doesn't it? He's playing a great game. I don't know. No one's even writing his name down. Even Ben wrote down Kenzie's name, and she didn't do anything. Charlie is in the power position, and the question is, will that run out? I don't know, but he is certainly hiding in plain sight. But that's going to do it for the episode. Thank you so much for watching. Hope you enjoyed this recap of Survivor Super Fun Time, episode 1146. It's great stuff. We have some cool stuff coming up. The Bryson Wen watch party in Philadelphia is this week, so if you happen to be for the episode 12 watch party in Philly, I will be there. It'd be really fun to see you. And of course, the New York City finale, we're going to be watching that in Manhattan. Should be really fun, super cool party. We'll be there as well. So if you happen to see me, say hi. Otherwise, hope you have an amazing day, everyone. You take care, and remember, tribe is spoken.